Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 26th of November. Full of, let me just say, starting off this show, having to get my technical gimmicks up and running because my laptop has to have a few issues loading up, but we're on now. Sorry about the delay, guys. I do apologise. But we're live tonight, live on YouTube, to bring you just over an hour of pretty entertaining news topics and plenty of conversation as well. I'm joined by late party supporter Zach James Brown. All the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Yeah, just I'm hoping and praying my end isn't like a GB News style. I do remember back to that launch. Good, all the mic issues we had, but we're still on, guys.
So
We're on tonight. Don't worry about it. Now we've got a busy show tonight. Plenty to talk about. And we're going to start off with the main news agenda for this week. We're going to be talking all about Brexit to start the show off with now. Now, for the first time since 2016, Brexit has finally got itself on the news of British politics. The news is massive for British politics this week. The referendum this week, because the EU referendum back in 2016 made a choice, leave or remain, which leave won. However, though, this week with Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt potentially urging at closer trade ties with the EU, it seems like the whole Brexit message could be overthrown and British politics could be left once again with very bleak future. Now, Zach, what did you make to this news being released the other day?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Some of the things going out the wrong end today for me. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Brexit has actually been in the headlines for the first time this week because there appears to be a bit of a divide within the UK government of what's the best approach to unleash, aka Brexit freedoms and all that sort of thing. That the previous Conservative governments have been promising when they've been in power, and understandably so. They're full of levers. They've promised to deliver Brexit, which in some ways they kind of have done in most instances. But now we've kind of seen splits in approaches of how to achieve this within the heart of government. We have seen Jeremy Hunt advocate for kind of more like closer ties with the EU. Behind the scenes, to get better trading links and all that sort of thing. Understandably, the EU is our closest continent, so Europe's our closest continent. So you wouldn't want to, just mess around and not deal with the Europe, because there's a lot of things that we can work with Europe on, defence, security, all that sort of thing. We've worked with the French recently to get get a new immigration deal in terms of getting security and getting immigration under control. So there is a reason to work there. But there seems to be, as you probably said, a bit of a heart of divide moment where Jeremy Hunt is advocating for closer ties to the EU. Rishi Sunak made clear in a CBI conference speech this week that he's not going, despite what's been reported, he's not prepared to go down that route currently so far. So, I think the government are trying to publicly say, we're sticking to the mandate that we got of the EU referendum, stick to the full Brexit galore of getting everything out and, making sure that all the Brexit laws are repealed and all sorts of things. But it looks like in some ways there's a little bit of a clash behind the scenes on what's really, what the strategy is in terms of post-Brexit freedoms and all that sort of thing. Now, I had some interesting comments today come out from Keir Starmer. He's talked to the Mail on Sunday as well, which I should point out. But he's also talked to the CBI as well. He's talking about a red line of bringing back freedom of movement from the EU. And he's accused of Rishi Sunak of either wanting to renegotiate Brexit. Yeah, you kind of get the impression from behind the scenes that the kind of the government wants to kind of move to more of a closer tie with the EU rather than sort of dive away from it. And that is, for most backbenchers on the Conservative side, that is a big problem for them because, they've fought hard and long for whatever you think of Brexit, they have fought hard and long to deliver what they call the freedoms of Brexit, and all the repealing of laws and all that sort of thing. And you kind of get the messaging from the government behind the scenes is, well, we might get closer links, and that's enraging if you backbenchers. You can kind of understand how serious this situation is, in terms of wanting to make sure that the Brexit is delivered fully. I mean, we have left, we have got a trade deal with them, we have got a withdrawal agreement, and that all sort of thing. But nevertheless, it feels like for a lot of backbench MPs that there is a serious issue in terms of being able to deliver Brexit truly and fully. So yeah, there's a big row on the backbenches, and it's serious. It is a serious.
Decided to kaput
Oh,
at the moment. I'm literally struggling. Sorry, my internet isn't great tonight, guys. I'm literally trying now to fix it up while Zach is speaking.
Oh, it's fine, Charles.
So
I'll keep going. I'll keep filling in. Yeah, I'll keep filling in, or trying to fill in as well. But yeah, it's a very serious situation. I mean, the ERG, you got like hundreds of members and everything like that. So currently, so far, they're trying to make sure that Brexit is delivered in full. I mean, it is now, but obviously repeal all these EU laws as quickly as possible. There's talk between the times things that the government may actually. It may not. The civil servants are basically saying, which civil servants are reasonable people. They're basically saying, oh yeah, well we don't think repealing all these laws straight away is going to be simple as that. So we want to delay until maybe 2025, 2024, for a few years time, so we can actually deliver on what you've promised, but do it in a more smoother and more sustainable way. And there's going to be this big clash between what the government wants and what the backbenchers wants at the moment.
I'm so sorry, guys.
You're right,
it has been literally. I am literally trying my hardest to get this internet working. I am so sorry, guys, for all of the technical issues I'm having at the moment.
It seems like all my it all seems like all the problems are your end tonight rather than my end. But
I know this is crazy.
Yeah, we're cracking on. We're cracking on. But yeah, it's a serious matter for this Brexit. All the way the government's approaching Europe at the moment. This is a serious issue. So I think there's going to be some interesting dividing lines. It'll be interesting to see. Rishi Sunak has said one thing in public, whether he does another thing in private, with allies like Jeremy Hunt and a few others advocating for more closer ties, is going to be very interesting, I think. It will be interesting, I think, Charlie.
I think as well, on the subject of that, I think it will be very, very interesting to see how, in general, does Jeremy Hunt undo Brexit? That is the big question, because with Brexit, it is a big, big issue at the moment. They don't really understand, the Tories, that the Brexit message has been brought across, given the huge numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the channel this year. It is just what's...
Oh, bless him. he's frozen, the poor lad. Oh, yeah, and he's frozen. So let's just continue on. Actually, I think the point I was trying to make. Oh, you there, Charlie? You get everything working your way now, Charlie? I think.
Oh God,
I think it's.
I literally don't know what's happening tonight. I cannot get any connection.
We're trying. I think the point you're trying to make, though, Charlie, is you got the opinion that Jeremy Hunt's trying to undo Brexit and that sort of thing. I see it from the point where I don't think Brexit is going to be undone, but I think Jeremy Hunt's advocating for sort of more closer ties that allows Brexit, but it's not really Brexit in some ways. And Rishi Sunak, he's sort of saying behind the scenes now, I want to keep going with the full Brexit that we currently have at the moment, get all the EU laws off the statute book, but let's see how fast we can deliver them. So I think that's how I see things currently at the moment. Charlie's got, so yeah, that's how I see things at the moment, Charlie. Oh, poor lad.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to literally
I might have to take over the show, you know. Oh, this lad's so
It's an absolute joke. I can't even get the other one on.
Oh,
So yeah, literally my end is not great tonight. I can't do anything about my Wi-Fi. It's literally not great at the moment. Is there any chance I can swap onto my phone? That might be the only other issue I'm going to have.
well,
If I
try
can use
whatever
my
way you
phone,
think, Charlie.
potentially.
Try whatever way. How much
If I can
data
use
you got?
my phone to get on my show. But I'm just going to try and carry this on as much as I can, and just say that, in my own opinion, I think this might be the only way for the government, and I'm going to have to say that that's probably the only way they're going to get. So yeah, I'm on my phone now, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just going to leave.
better. Once you get rid of one Charlie Tolhurst, we'll keep the other. Actually, the one on the phone will be.
Can all the listeners hear me now?
You can hear two Charlie Tolhursts. It's great. If you
Yeah.
get rid of one on your computer, and then you can keep the one on the phone.
Sorry about that, guys. Just trying to shut down my laptop. So yeah, there's a lot. I do apologise for all the feedback on this page because I'm trying to literally get out of my device.
I
For
like
some reason, my internet won't allow me to shut it down. So
we got the comic version of Charlie Tolhurst.
yeah, it's quite difficult. If I can shut my device down, that might help. There we go.
Oh, brilliant! You sound brilliant, Charlie. I can hear you quite loud and clear.
There we go. I'm back on. Sorry for all the technical issues I've had, because literally my laptop has decided to crash, and my internet on there is rubbish. So I'm on with 4G from my phone. But yeah, Zach, honestly, wow. This has really been like GB News' launch night tonight, hasn't it? Getting my last 12 minutes on.
I've tried to fill in quite well.
But yeah, no, I have to say Jeremy Hunt is definitely going to be in the subject of a lot of chat tonight. So all I can say is that I think this is a very, very important issue that matters to us all. Like, in the thing is that you've got to be aware that the government have got to not undo the message. And Zach, I've got a question for you now. Whilst we're on the subject of Brexit and Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon having independence referendum 2 really being the priority of the Scottish government. Do you think Indy Ref 2 is under threat for her right now?
Yes, I think it certainly is, given the Supreme Court ruling this week that unanimously ruled that the Scottish government cannot get another independence referendum without the consent of the UK government. I think it's definitely under threat now. They're also going to use 2024 as a de facto referendum, but whether they get enough of a majority or not it remains to be seen. Because if you think about it a lot, that it will be tricky actually for the Scottish government in a general election to have much influence in Westminster compared to their own parliament. If they get enough, MSPs in the next election in Scotland, then maybe they could have a really big influence and get a majority there. But the polls are, kind of not in favour of the SNP at the moment. Like, it's mainly between 55-45 no at the moment in terms of independence. And it's not going to really work as a de facto message for the UK, for the elections in 2 years' time. I think if Nicola Sturgeon can barely get this, she's got no choice in her position. She's run the whole life on as SNP leaders on the independence movement. I think her independence movement is kind of under threat at the moment. And this is where the UK government are sort of getting one over because, they can't really legally get a referendum done without the consent of the UK government. The UK government's going to keep saying no. So, yeah, I think the Scottish government got big issues now. And they've got another 2 years to wait. And how long can independence supporters really wait? They're going to really feel the pain and the frustration of not being able to get one. And simply people are just going to run out of hope to the point where there's no point of getting another independence referendum. It's just, it's they're going to run out of patience, really. Whether you agree or disagree or not, there's going to be certain a lot that are going to not really accept what's really happened, really, and are just going to keep demanding for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to play for you now this video of the First Minister talking at a rally where she said the Scottish people will not be silenced ahead of this independence referendum. Have a listen to this.
The United Kingdom is not a voluntary partnership of nations. Any partnership in any walk of life that requires one party to seek the consent of another to choose its own future is not voluntary. It is not a partnership at all. And while today's ruling may create temporary relief on the part of unionist politicians and parties, they should know the hardest questions that have been posed today are questions for them, because they are questions about the future and the basis of the United Kingdom. Now, the Westminster establishment may think it can block a referendum, but let me be clear, I am sure on your behalf today, no establishment, Westminster or otherwise, will ever silence the voice of the Scottish people.
That was Nicola Sturgeon there talking about her independence referendum there in that speech. Right, fiery speech, I have to say, because I think there's a lot of issues when it comes to Scottish independence. We know for full well as well that the Scottish independence referendum is an important part of Scotland in general for Nicola Sturgeon, but she has been under a lot of pressure. And Zach, do you think opposition parties right now are in big denial over what's going to happen next, particularly whether they're going to rebel against this or not?
Well, I think for the Conservatives and Labour and Lib Dems, I think it's a good thing for them, because it feels like for some reason they're on the side of what the Scottish people really want to talk about. They want to talk about the schools, the hospitals, education, NHS, drug crimes, and all that sort of thing in Scotland. And it feels like in some ways the SNP is kind of like talking about referendums every time that you get a breath in it. You hear it from he likes to be in Blackford. You hear that he wants every sentence, every SNP MP either mentions independence in some form, whatever questions as well, or Scotland choosing its own future. And they're not going to get that anytime soon, unfortunately. This will just embolden. Yesterday, the past week has emboldened the opposition parties, to make the unionist case for Scotland staying in the United Kingdom, whilst the SNP will look like they're going to be talking to themselves about how to go through the next steps, I'm afraid.
Oh, it's very interesting. I have to say that you've got to take it in the chin and say, is this actually worth going for? I don't think it is. I'm sorry. I think the whole point is that you've got to have cross-party consensus for the whole issue, and they're all clearly not on the First Minister's side. And I've even read up as well, this could be a resigning matter for Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, goodness me. Imagine this being a resigning matter for the First Minister. To be honest with you, she's unreliable as it is to lead Scotland. I have to say that in my opinion. But comment down below what you make. Nicola Sturgeon leading Scotland potentially into the next election. Don't see that happening. Really don't for me. I think the SNP are in denial, and the Scottish government need an election as soon as possible, I think. And that's because the Supreme Court actually blocked it. So yeah, simple as that. Forgot to mention the Supreme Court actually blocked that from happening. So moving on from that now, I'm going to touch on another thing now, which has been in the news recently. We are going to go straight over to London now and talk about Sadiq Khan's crazy old ULEZ expansion. Now, if you don't know what the ULEZ expansion means, ULEZ is basically ultra low emission zone. It's basically an area in London where you can drive your car if you are basically part of the ULEZ. If your car basically meets the ULEZ expansion zones, basically It stands for ultra low emissions. So basically, you've got to have your vehicle's got to be a certain, you have to meet a certain criteria in order to drive in it. I know there's one up in Birmingham, like a clean air zone, because I've actually got to go up there in January to referee a squash event. So that's another thing that is coming up with these ultra low emission zone areas. But London's one's going to be expanded. Obviously, the Conservatives can stop it, I think. But Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan wants to expand this. Now, Zach, do you think Londoners should pay more money to drive in the capital, particularly where he wants to expand it to?
So there's some few thoughts on this, right? Okay. I get the reason why he would want to expand that ultra low emission zone. He wants to keep pollution quite clean on the city, make the city more efficient, and stop harmful, gases and vehicles going into the city, intoxicating people, and making the air pollute. I can totally understand that. So in some ways, if he wants to make London a clean city, yeah, I pretty much agree with that. If it includes all of London, but the problem I think about this is that it's got quite a lot of pushback. This plan to expand the low emission zone to pretty much all London, because currently at the moment, it's more of a central London as well.
Oh, there's been an issue there. I don't know what has actually happened to my.
Oh, Charlie's having more issues. But in terms of like where the ultra low emission zone is at the moment, it is
what
it's on
what
it's in like in the middle of
well, and then it all hit out again. Wow.
Oh, right. But yeah, what I was saying, Charlie, is that in the current low emission zone is actually in the centre of London at the moment as well. And I can give you a good idea about this. So this is where it is at the moment. So you can see this, the purple is the current boundary. This is going to be the boundary from the 29th of August next year. So this is still a while away, but you can see this boundary is huge. It pretty much increases the whole thing. It's all of London pretty much that is affected by this low emission zone. So that means a lot of more customer drivers are going to be having to pay a £12.50 charge to enter the Greater London Authority. 80% of these people in the affected opposed it, but Sadiq Khan is basically saying it's going to more people going to get it. It's going to be in the long term pretty much better for the people because it actually, it makes their air cleaner. So there is a lot of opposition, and I think Sadiq Khan has to be careful that when you're doing that. But in the other hand, it's more cleaner and more efficient to do it to cover the whole of London as well, to make London what they call a green city.
I think it's just, I mean, is it worth going into Surrey to expand the zone, given it's a London borough? I mean, what is the point? Say you're driving to, I don't know, Chessington World Adventures down the M25, Fort Park, Legoland Windsor, given that's not far from, say, Windsor Castle as well. Windsor Castle, you can see Wembley Stadium from there. Like, it's near London. As a London borough, why would you be so inhumane to announce something where drivers, even I'd even argue people outside of London, I don't even know like whether this zone's free for Londoners to use. I'm a Londoner driving through my own city having to pay £12.50 every day. It could get more expensive given inflation's going to rise. I mean, what's the point of this? What is the point of wasting time? Well, the mayor was actually on Sky News the other day. I'm actually going to play you some of this interview about why he wants to expand the Eurozone. Have a listen to what he had to say right now. And trust me, this gets pretty interesting, what he has to say about his proposed expansion of ULEZ.
Now, the Mayor of London has announced that London's ultra-low emission zone, otherwise known as ULEZ, is going to be expanded from August next year. The changes will mean that drivers of older cars who enter the Greater London Authority boundary will face a daily fee of £12.50 for using London's roads. So I'm pleased to say the Mayor of London's in August.
Good to join you. Listen, it wasn't an easy decision, it was a tough decision. But it's the right decision. Here in our great city, every year, there are more than 4,000 premature deaths directly attributable to air pollution, to the air we breathe. It's an invisible killer. You can't see the nitrogen dioxide and the particulate matter, but it leads to children having stunted lungs forever and adults with a whole host of health issues, from asthma to dementia, from cancer to heart disease. And we've seen the world-leading ultra-low emission zone being transformative in central and inner London, reducing by half the toxic air in central London, by further 20% in inner London. I think the right to breathe clean air is surely a right for everyone in London, and that's why from next August, with the support of a massive £110 million scrappage scheme, we'll be expanding ULEZ so all Londoners can breathe cleaner air.
So £12.50 for those with certain types of vehicle, and then that's on top of the congestion charge.
So at the moment, actually across the ULEZ area, more than 94% of vehicles are now compliant. It used to be only 39% of vehicles. So what our policy is leading to is a change in behaviour, fewer non-compliant vehicles, and an improvement in air. But because I recognise that if you're a low-income family, if you're a small business, if you're a charity, if you're a disabled Londoner, you may be driving a pollution vehicle and need help. I've also announced today a massive scrappage scheme, £110 million, which also enables you to retrofit your vehicle if you want to do so, if you can't make the option of changing from your car to a cleaner vehicle. And the other thing we've announced today is the biggest expansion of new bus routes ever in outer London, an additional 1 million kilometres of new bus routes.
But what I'm getting at, Mr. Khan, is this is going to be very expensive, isn't it, for some people whose vehicles don't comply and they're driving into London and they're going to get clobbered with the congestion charge and the ULEZ charge now at a time, the worst cost of living crisis in living memory, of many people can't afford their heating or indeed food.
There's only a cost if your vehicle is non-compliant. That's why we've got the scrappage scheme. But look, I accept that the politically expedient decision would have been to kick the can down the road. But I think the cost of inaction, we've seen far outweigh the costs of action. I think public health trumps political expediency. But to support families, to support businesses during the cost of living crisis, we have the scrappage scheme, which will be helping people make the transition a just transition.
So what do you hope to raise from this? Or what have you raised already from ULEZ charges, and what do you hope to raise by expanding it?
Well, actually, the cost of ULEZ in the first few years outweighs the money you bring in. But any net proceeds we make, every penny that's net proceeds in the surplus, is going to be invested in public transport. It's really important that we invest in public transport. It's simply not possible for us to encourage people to move away from vehicles unless we can make walking, cycling and public transport a better alternative. So just to reassure those that still will be driving non-compliant vehicles, by the way, they themselves are breathing in the poison, as well as others. Every penny raised net will be invested in public transport.
But many people, and there have been various polls, I know that you disagree with some of them, but there have been a number of polls which show that the majority of Londoners don't agree with this expansion of ULEZ, and they say that it's all about revenue raising instead of being about public health. What do you say to that?
Well, the most comprehensive poll showed that actually more than double Londoners support the expansion that are against it. But actually, here's the point. In the 1950s, when the government took a brave decision to pass the Clean Air Act and basically ban power stations from central London, there was also opposition to that. When I was in Parliament and I voted to ban smoking in public places, massive opposition to that as well. When I first introduced the ultra-low emission zone, there was opposition to that initially, but actually the effects have been transformative of the Clean Air Act, banning smoking in public spaces, and the ultra-low emission zone. In fact, experts say the best way, the quickest way to clean up the air in our city is expanding ULEZ. And in fact, cities across the globe, including in our country, are speaking to us on a daily basis, asking us how they can do the same.
Thank you there, Sadiq Khan. I thought I'd play the whole interview there because it's very, very important to understand the issue when it surrounds the government on, well, a number one of things, really. I think you have to look at it and say, is this the right move? Do you announce that? Now, Khan mentioned some pretty important figures in that interview. He said about 84% people were now compliant when it was like 37% before. It was a lot lower. You could tell the figure was a lot lower before the thing he brought in, the ULEZ. But, Zach, I'm going to put this question to you as you're a Labour Party supporter. This is a question that I wouldn't normally ask on my show, but I will to you. Do you think an average Londoner or an average person coming out of London paying that £12.50 congestion charge, do you think that will help towards their finances?
Well, in cost of living times, probably not. But I suppose even if this is not necessarily a short-term benefit, this is going to be a year. It's going to be 8 months, 9 months to put in place. So actually, 8 months actually, to be fair. So I'm probably wrong with that. But it's going to be really a transitional phase where it will be. It's not going to go in now, but it will go in August. So there's plenty of time for people to do things. And maybe the cost of living crisis situation will be better by then. Who knows? We probably will be. But I think personally, as well, even if it's not a short-term benefit, I think it'll benefit them in the long term.
Yeah, I don't know what I have to say about this. I feel destined to say that I don't support it. I'm just someone who I don't want to see people paying £12.50 just to go to Chessington World Adventures because it's in Surrey and because it's part of Greater London's borough. I mean, the London boroughs is about, 50 of them? I don't entirely know, but there's loads of them. You've got, parts of Surrey, parts of, say, maybe sort of parts of like Romford, maybe, where they could be in it. So, yeah, that's bad for Londoners. I mean, it's a massive area. When you expand it to all the London boroughs, it is going to be a nightmare. I mean, I've just checked and I'm lucky I don't have to pay ULEZ. Luckily, my full Fiesta's exempt from that. But please look up on the website, guys. Please check the gov.uk website and please make sure you check your vehicle is within that ULEZ regulations, because if you don't, you could be paying that fee of £12.50. It is going to hurt Londoners massively financially, given we're in a cost of living crisis as well. Mr. Khan must focus on that rather than try and intimidate Londoners with more crazy restrictions on payments, allowing them to enter London. It's just crazy. Don't drive in London, get public transport instead, is my opinion. Moving on now to the war in Ukraine. This week, again, a horrendous week for Russia and Ukraine. Now, unfortunately, because I'm on my phone tonight, I can't share my screen. So Zach will present his screen with all the latest news that is currently on at the moment in Ukraine. I can tell you what I have read up this week. Russia have attacked Kherson this week with multiple missile strikes, not just in Kherson, but across much of Ukraine, where cities have been hit. Power infrastructure has been hit once again as well. There was blackouts across the country again, and about 3 dead the other day during more air raids in Kyiv. So it has honestly been a horrendous week for Ukrainian losses. There has been some success, though, for Ukraine in terms of countering Russian offensives. Crimea being on the targets, we don't know. But Vladimir Putin, Zach, is, I think, now starting to, basically throw his head with the wind and say right now that he wants to use his own weapons rather than use pilots to drop them.
Yeah, and certainly in that instance as well, he's been certainly doing the destructive work today as well. I mean, there's still problems in Ukraine, as you can tell, Charlie. I mean, like 6 million households still affected by power cuts. It's because of Russian strikes on infrastructure and energy as well. It's causing a lot of blackouts. You may see Kyiv obviously beginning in their peak winter season now with all the snow and everything like that. No power at all. All the lights are off there because of Russian strikes on energy infrastructure there as well. Russia have also tried to return to shelling Kherson again after they lost their battle with Ukraine on that as well. So 35 people have been injured, including a child, and several private houses and high-rise building damaged. as well. It was the deadliest Russian bombardment there in recent days. 32 civilians have been killed in Kherson since 9th of November when Russian forces have been withdrawn the city. They've also been accused of genocide as well. Of the genocide tactics of Joseph Stalin, the community commander of the sovereignty and framing that killed millions of Ukraine in the winter 1932-3. We've had Prime Minister of Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine meet in Kyiv, talks as well, and a bit of news from Belarus today, where the foreign minister, Vladimir Markel, has died. No reason has been given for this at the moment, Charlie, not at all. But there is some, for some reason, he's dead as well. The head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said we are shocked by the report of the death of Vladimir Maky as well. So, yeah, I mean, Russia have been kind of doing their little tactics again of trying to get into energy infrastructure and, destroy civilian targets and, targeting Dnipro is one of them as well. They're back to where they've been as well. But the tactics are still not working at the end of the day as well. I think from what I've seen is that the Ukrainians are holding well so far as well. Bakhmut as well is where Ukraine are holding up as well. The Russians have tried to make an offensive there. It's not worked so far, and they're failing as well. So overall, Russia's still trying a desperate move to, worsen the situation in Ukraine. But so far, Ukraine are holding well this week.
Zach, I'm going to ask you this question now about Germany, because Angela Merkel has come out and said that she didn't have the strength for pre-invasion talks ahead of the war. And Boris Johnson done an interview the other day with CNN, apparently seeming to criticise Germany for saying that they wanted Ukraine to lose. I have to say, Zach, Germany, I think, do take a lot of responsibility for this, really, given that I felt like they've been very weak on the war in Ukraine with all of that delivery of weapons.
Yeah, at times you could argue they have been weak. I have to say the Germans as well. The Germans, by the way, one of the ministers came out and denied what Boris Johnson said, which was that the Germans was kind of like, basically alleging that the Germans were trying to help the Ukrainians try to come to a peace deal instead, rather than continue the war and give up territory as well. So it was quite an interesting interview that Boris Johnson did with CNN. Especially some of the allegations, but the German lot came up with quite a denial, saying basically calling him really a liar in many instances as well. Pretty much. I think they're glad they're gone in some ways, but Germany's support could have been improved over the last few months, to be fair. He's not wrong in that instance. I mean, at times been lacking. It appears they've delivered something to Ukraine, which is good, but at times they have been slacking as well. But they've obviously trying to get he's obviously trying to, Ole Scholz is trying to balance the act between, balancing the acts of, of his interests of his country, whilst obviously trying to, be quite critical of Vladimir Putin, especially the fact as well that where Germany's reliant on Nord Stream 2 and all that sort of thing, and the gas and everything, a lot of it relies on Russian gas. So he's managed the gas situation, I think, quite well over the winter so far, but to find backup ones, but the deliveries wise, he could have done something a bit better.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. We'll keep updated with all the latest news from the war in Ukraine next week. Time now for an update on the sport news. Formula One did end last week. We can confirm to you that Max Verstappen won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and the season will begin in March next year. So me and Zach will go over the driving news. Logan Sargent has now joined Williams, Zach, for 2023.
And probably, it was not really surprised at the end of the day. He was going to join if he got his super license points. He did get his super license points. So it was almost inevitable that he was going to join Williams. And it was confirmed, I believe, the next couple of days after that he was going to be joining the team as well. But it was pretty much a big win for Max Verstappen in the final race of the season, wrapping up the season in style, really, to be fair. As well, Leclerc got second in the championship, just ahead of Perez. As well, second and third is a good as well. One person's future that's up in the air though is Mattia Binotto. Reports in Italy suggesting that he may be about to leave the company potentially, and if that's the case, then I personally think that'd be a real shame, because what Ferrari don't need to fix is not the team principal after a wobbly expectations. What they need to fix is their whole strategy team. I think, in my view, I think they're the ones that have been, letting the Ferrari team down. They're good on team principles. Trust me, they've got the people running it well, but it's the strategists behind the scenes that I think let the whole team down, not the team principals. So it'll be a shame if Mattia Binotto is going to go out and leave the company. But yeah, I think it'll be a bit harsh in my view if it does happen the case. But it's all unconfirmed so far. He may well still be there by the next time we're talking in March, or whether the next couple of weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, well, they've gone through. Is it Arriva Bene? They went through once. They went through another one. I don't even know his name. But yeah, Mattia Binotto going. Ferrari have had so many team principals going in the last few years. I can't remember Stefano Domenicali being there the longest. So yeah. Now, by the way, he's now Formula One's CEO. So there you go. But moving on now to the World Cup. This has been the big talking point of the week. The football is back. England have played 2 matches this week. We can confirm yesterday they did do it. I'd say they did watch some of the match. It was a 0-0 draw with the United States. We did win against Iran, I think 6-2 as well. So that was a big win. We also had some other matches as well. Group D today saw an Australia 1-0 win over Tunisia. Poland won in Group C with a 2-0 win over Saudi Arabia, who beat Argentina early in the week. France was 2-1 with Denmark. Exciting news, Kylian Mbappe leads the way with 2 goals for France in that one. And Argentina finally got themselves off to a winning start with a 2-0 win over Mexico. Japan and Costa Rica play tomorrow as well, along with other matches, which we'll see. Just in general, other matches will be played during the week. Japan and Costa Rica tomorrow. Zach, what do you make of some of the fixtures so far in the World Cup in Qatar?
Yeah. First of all, let's look at the England and Wales ones. England, good win on the Monday, 6-2 Qatar. I mean, that performed very well. Could have not given away that late penalty in the end, but overall, feels like the team did their job. I know it sounds like it's only Qatar, but they played very well in that game. The less said could have been said for Friday, though. Defensively, a bit poor, a bit lackluster. USA who managed to get pushed through that midfield at most points. Good shots and targets. They didn't end up finishing in the quality, unfortunately, at the end of the day. But that was a disappointing performance on the Friday. As for Wales, I mean, when they took on the USA on Monday, they got better throughout the game. They managed to get that second half goal, which means they drew on that one. But they were very poor on the Friday against Iran. Very, 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 very poor. Did I say England take on Qatar? I mean, that's not meant Iran. Apologies to mind. I just realised I said Qatar rather than Iran. But on the Iran match as well, Wales are all over the place. Very poor. Red card as well for the goalkeeper. I mean, that was a blatant red card, no matter what you think about it. And then the 98th minute, 101st minute goals, just such poor goalkeeping, poor defending, absolutely awful couple of half, really. Could have been 3-0 if VAR didn't chalk off the goal for Iran as well. But poor matches, a poor game overall for England and for Wales. England and Wales meet on Tuesday. I think it's the Tuesday. I can't remember. Is it Tuesday? I think it may well be the Tuesday.
I think it is Tuesday, yeah.
Yes, it is on Tuesday. Next week, this week coming up at 7:00 as well. That'll be a big game. Actually, there's a lot riding on the line of that. England probably need to only draw that one to get through. Wales most likely really do need to win to be able to get through on that match overall. They really need to win to make sure to get through. And also as well, Iran USA will be crucial to figure out who gets through to the second stage there. As well. Tomorrow's matches are Japan, Costa Rica, as you said, Charlie. Then we've got Belgium, Morocco at 1:00, Croatia and Canada, and then one of the biggest matches, I think, the tournament so far at 7:00 tomorrow, Spain and Germany take on each other as well at 7:00 as well. That'll be a big, big match coming up as well. Then the final to round up match day one, it will be Cameroon, Serbia. Serbia at 10, South Korea, Ghana on Monday at 1. Brazil, Switzerland at 4, and Portugal, Uruguay at 7 on the Monday. Well, that'll be match day 2 rounded up. Apologies, as well. And then throughout the week as well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, will be wrapping up the group stages as well. England will take on Wales, as we said, on Tuesday as well. Other matches include Poland and Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico as well. And then other highlights will be Croatia and Belgium on the Thursday, Japan v Spain as well on the Thursday, Costa Rica, Germany as well, Cameroon v Brazil, South Korea and Portugal on the Friday round, and then the round of 16 will begin next week, Charlie, as well. That'll be a big, interesting match to watch coming up ahead as well. So it's all still right on the line as we go into next week.
Yeah. And of course, the football, you can catch up with all the latest news on ITV and BBC and probably on Sky Sports as well. There'll be plenty of live streams and also results. Keep an eye on them as they come in. Make sure you're filling out your wall charts as well, by the way, because a lot of people were getting wall charts. They've got all the fixtures on, all the dates on, all the stadiums on, and of course the final as well. And the Premier League will be back on Boxing Day, so please stay tuned for that as well. But now it's time for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here review now. It's time for Charlie's Good News, which I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here heads into its penultimate night. I won't say anything about tonight's episode because I'm going to watch it after the show. That's a Celebrity Cyclone troll. I love that troll. One of my favourites of the series. But there's been eliminations this week. Campmates going, Charlene White being one of the first. She was deputy to Matt Hancock. Scarlett Douglas providing a shock one, I have to say. Best known place, presenting A Place in the Sun. We had Sue Cleaver going as the third. Boy George was the fourth. Babatunde Elige the fifth. And then also we had other nights where other people were voted off as well. Chris Moyles was another one. Sean Walsh got eliminated. They're all going now. 4 left. Who's going to get eliminated tonight, Zach? And I tell you what, a lot of eliminations this week.
Yeah, a lot of eliminations this week. As the final is tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on ITV as well. It's an hour and 40 minutes long. There's going to be some big results potentially up ahead. But yes, it is a big night tomorrow. We're going to be crowning a king or queen of the jungle. Providing that Jill Scott doesn't exit, will be kings or queens. If Jill exits tonight, then it'll be kings of the jungle as well. If Jill's in it, by the time we get to Sunday, we could be carrying a king or queen of the jungle. But let me tell you who's back in it. We've got Mike Tyndall still in it. We've got Owen Warner still there, Jill Scott there, and Matt Hancock as well. Matt Hancock, for all the expectations, has survived all this time, despite the fact he was being panned, he was being voted for, all the trials at first. And I think the public have kind of had a soft spot for him recently as well. So yeah, it's interesting. The trials have been fun. They've had today. They're doing that big, velodrome, whatever you call it, where you get all that water pouring down on the cyclone. Yes, probably one of the best bush tucker trials of the series, as you can imagine. I obviously won't spoil what's going to happen on that one because you're going to watch the episode tonight, Charlie. But the elimination has not happened yet. Thankfully, it's not going to be happening by the time we talk about what's going on because I don't want to spoil anything. It still hasn't happened yet. But we will know probably about 10 minutes time which one is going to be out and what's the final 3 is going to be by the time we get to Sunday. But yeah, we're going to be crowning a king or queen tomorrow as well. It's been an eventful series, I have to say. It's the traditional feel of I'm a Celebrity has been back because you're in Australia. And everyone has really, really enjoyed it, I have to say, as well. So, yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. And look forward to it ending tomorrow as well, in a good, positive way, obviously, as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. I think certainly I'm a Celebrity being back. Oh, it's very interesting. Matt Hancock being my interesting choice this year, given that he was a late arrival into the show. And also as well, don't forget, people are asking questions. Is he still serving as an MP under the Conservatives? I have to say, I think he's lost his constituency parliament seat now, but what I heard, because he had the whip suspended. So Matt Hancock,
he's still an MP.
Still an MP, but I don't feel like longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, mind you, we did get a conversation on that in the jungle the other day. I heard a few of the celebs were actually questioning Matt. I have to say, because I think it's very, very interesting that you get to see politicians gossiping about, and they're all like, "That's the whole." I don't know. It's very, very interesting. But moving on now to another part of Charlie's good news, where I'm going to talk about some car news now. Don't usually do this on my show, talking about new cars, because I think new car news generally is a very, very important thing. And I wanted to share why I think this is very, very important. So I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton now, because if you not saw him the other day, he was actually in Japan the other day. He was apparently saying that he never wanted to drive the troubled Mercedes W13 again. He was seen pictured doing drifts inside Japan's inside capital Japan, which is Tokyo, in a Nissan Skyline R34. Now that car, of course, came out early 2000s. 160-mile-an-hour car, doing lots of drifting, and he was caught on camera doing it. He said, "We're not joking. Check out the video posted to his Instagram page below. It's everything you could hope for, more than cool. There's even some all-wheel drive donuts in an abandoned car park with no more smoke flying up the transmission tunnel at one point." Zach, Lewis Hamilton having a difficult year at Mercedes this year because George Russell was the only driver to win a race for them. Do you think doing something like this will give him a little bit of a boost?
Yeah, it's the off season now, so I think people are going to find ways to settle back and chill out after a whole season. But yeah, I mean the bit where he's doing drifting was pretty fun, I have to say, as well. I mean, drifting in Japan, street drifting is very popular there, as you can probably tell, as well. So obviously now the season's sort of done, he can go back to, people can go have their little holidays, go and have their fun, do what they need to do, and it's a lot the off season now. It's a time to do some fun activities and rehibernate after a difficult year. And it's going to get even more difficult with 4 races next season, 23 possibly, because China's probably going to be off the calendar if they're going to stick with their one COVID, then zero COVID policy for many places. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm just looking at the video. Lewis Hamilton having a lot of fun drifting all these famous Japanese models as well. It's pretty common in Japan for street fighters to be and street drifters to be going around there and showing off their cars, and that really looked brilliant, I have to say, as well. He looked like he was really having fun and really enjoying it as well. And fair play to him, because he looked like it looked really good.
Yeah, I think as well. And if you want to check out drifting, check out the Formula Drift Championship, because it's actually a very important series. One driver that is very, very successful in that is 3-time Formula Drift champion James Dean from Ireland, who drives a Nissan S15 in the series. He's very, very successful in it. He's got a YouTube channel, Clip James Dean. It basically is a YouTube channel of himself. He's actually the Becky Evans' boyfriend, and you can also check out her YouTube channel as well, where she'll go over cars and that. So will James Dean, all on drifting. Formula Drift Sack is a very unique series, isn't it? Because it's something where drifting, obviously they go to all these venues and they have to drift to score points in them. It's a very, very competitive championship, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It is extremely competitive. It's all scary. It's always about being the best drifter and showing off your drifting skills. Remember, think about it like rally, where you drift in dirt and gravel sometimes, and you see all the best rally drivers do that. Think about that as in drifting, as Formula drifters showing off, performing your skills, a bit like a bicycle, really, where you do somersaults and things like that. This one, you just show off your drifts. Whilst you race your way towards the finish line. So yeah, it's a very interesting competition, and like I said, popular in Japan, where this is all a home of drifting and just fun on wheels, really.
Suzuka might be a venue where they hold it. We don't know, actually. I haven't checked the calendar, but I'm sure Suzuka probably does hold some form of the drift events, given that it is a racetrack. So yeah, if you want to check out Formula Drift, please go to their website. That is formuladrift.com. And also, as I said, check out James Dean's YouTube channel if you want to find out more about his success in Formula Drift series. Now, it's time to go through the papers. Now, unfortunately, as you can tell, I'm going to ask Zach, my friend.
Yeah,
Zach,
that's no worries.
My friend Zach's going to get them up now because I literally cannot access them via my phone. As you guys know, tonight I have had some technical issues, but I have managed to get on tonight on my using my phone for the stream. So we're going to go over some of the papers. I'm going to use my trusty iPad to try and get through some of them. So let's go through some of them now. The Sunday Express goes with the headline: "Migrants housed in forces' homes." That was the first headline there, which was from the Sunday Express. The Sunday Star goes with the sprout of order. That was that headline there. Sunday People goes for Callmageddon, I think is the headline.
Callmageddon.
Callmageddon. I think that, and then also the Tory Wet as well, referencing Matt Hancock doing the trial, Bush Tucker trial celebrity cyclone. Sunday Mirror goes with Jill to score millions. The Sunday Independent goes with inside the NHS's crisis engulfing mental health care. Interesting. So a completely different headline there for those papers. There will be more papers that will be coming out, I'm sure, in a minute. But Zach, we're going to go through, what do you make to the latest papers that we've just mentioned?
Yeah, let's go through some of them actually as well. The Sunday Express is the first one on our list. Migrants housed in forces' homes. Hundreds of military homes have been set aside for migrants, whilst at least 2,500 British veterans do not have a roof over their heads. So to deal with the influx of immigrants coming in, by the way, they set a new record, by the way. The amount of immigrants that have come over, I think, has set a new record. Isn't it 80,000 now, if I'm correct in saying
something like that?
Now,
yeah, it's massive.
That now come over to the United Kingdom as well. The government wanted to get that down to below as 5,000 before. It's now 80,000. Quite something as well. I love the display. It's like, it's like reading the Steve the cab driver with your like little iPad that you got there as well. But yeah, migrants housed in forces homes. So what the Express is arguing here is that whilst there's veterans out on the street struggling, they're all being given to immigrants really as well. The government is forced to look at the accommodation amid growing resistance to use of hotels, B&B's, holiday accounts to house a backlog of 143,000 asylum seekers as well. So yeah, it shows really how we've got a asylum seeker backlog, and the fact that they can't use hotels means they're having to use other methods. And it's the argument is that it may well be that it's not fair on those who are actually British veterans who are out in the street, whilst an asylum seekers get to take all of them. Some say that's unfair, some say it is fair. I kind of think it is unfair that British veterans are not being treated very fairly in some ways as well. That's unfortunate. The Daily Star, with their comical headline, goes for sprout of order. MPs will stuff faces with a 5-course Xmas meal at the same price they paid in 2021. This is obviously the fact that Daily Star is trying to make a point that the MPs are being able to afford all this luxury dinners and Xmas meals, whilst we lot are unable to afford them this year. There's little sign of the cost of living crisis in the House of Commons, where MPs can pig out on festive feats that have curiously managed to swerve soaring inflation. So yeah, managed to find the stuff that gives them inflation, and then the MPs that get stuff that don't manage to get sorted by inflation. Make that make sense in many ways, but I can understand Daily Star's point on that one. It's pretty bad, to be fair. As well, the Sunday People goes for Cornmageddon. Curry restaurants are shutting in droves as rocketing costs go through the roof. I have to say, I like a curry. And I don't like the fact that, curry restaurants have been shut down as well. I like a curry. I like a vegetarian curry because I'm vegetarian. But seeing the fact that restaurants, because of inflation, because of rising costs, are having to shut their doors. And this is the effect of the hospitality sector that's been severely damaged, Charlie, by rising costs, rising inflation, lack of customers, lack of people wanting to spend out on the street as well. and it's causing havoc for them. And it's so much shame to see small businesses go out of business because of rising costs. And it probably won't help with the tax increases that they're probably about to face in April as well, even more of them, which is disgraceful. But as we know, to fill the black hole as well. The Daily Mirror, the Mirror on Sunday goes due to score millions. They talk about the fact that Jill Scott took on the tonight's big final Bush Tucker trial. Well, not really final Bush Tucker trial, but one of the last of them. She took the Cyclone Challenge. It's an I'm a Celebrity Scooter Jones. Jill to score millions. Footy star finalist already winner as offers flood in. Are the papers betting on Jill Scott winning the whole thing then and becoming Queen of the Jungle? Who knows? The Mirror thinks so. Who knows? We'll find out. The results have just happened, by the way. I'm not going to give anything away because I know you want to watch it, Charlie, as well. As well, the Independent goes for inside the crisis engulfed mental health care. As well, people suffering from mental illness are increasingly struggling to access help at every level of the NHS, from record numbers facing unacceptable delays in referrals to patient waiting up to 8 days in A&E for a bed. 8 days in A&E for a bed. How the hell have we managed to get that happening? That is dreadful. Who's riding unacceptable emergency delays, tens of thousands a month left unable to access vital treatment. The NHS is on our knees, Charlie. And I think it's been on our knees for months now. But, it's still on our knees. And it's just going to get worse. We've got a difficult few months ahead as well. The Sunday Telegraph also goes on health. 1,012-hour waits every day. The emergency care system collapsing as struggles hospitals done. About 4,000 a day. Wait for more than 12 days, 12 hours as well. Completely unacceptable in my view, Charlie. Completely unacceptable that this is even happening as well. The head of the Royal College of Emergency Medicine issued the warning as nurses prepare for their first national strike, by the way. This is in relation to the fact that nurses are actually going to go on strike because of this, all the problems because of pay, because of delivery of the service. That's going to cause chaos. I can understand the reason for going on, but it's going to cause absolute chaos for people who really need healthcare at the moment as well. It's quite shocking. And finally, the Observer goes for a blow to Brexit as landlocked new trade deals see trade slum. As well, the first major free trade agreement signed by Britain after Brexit has been branded a failure after new figures showed exports have fallen since it came into force. That's a Liz Truss 1 full year. Thank you, Liz Truss, for the failures of trade deals. Liz Truss signed a historic deal with Japan on October 2020, describing it as a landmark moment for Britain, claimed to boost trade of £1 billion to help the UK recover from the pandemic. However, figures collected by the Department of International Trade shows exports fell from 12.3 billion to 11.9 billion in the year to June 2012. Exports of goods fell 4.9 to 6.1 billion, and services fell 2% to 5.8 billion. So yes, Brexit is affecting our trade, I'm afraid. No matter what freedoms you leave, Brexit is affecting our trade, and there's severe problems in that department as well. If we're losing exports, then all the stuff, our value of the pound falls. Our amount of goods we can sell fall, and that just reduces our economy overall. So big problems there, Charlie, at the moment in terms of export and trade at the moment as well. So yeah, big issue there that needs to be addressed as well. I just want to point out the Sunday Times have now released their front page as well. Fire chef will sack racist and sexist rokers. This is a report from the Royal London Brigade of the fire as well, who've come out and saying NHS, BBC and police asked for help next. So there's a report saying that the London Fire Brigade has been some sort of institutional racism and unfair treatment of workers in there. It's a very serious report that's come out from the fire brigade there, and it's very, very bad as well. Very horrible read, to be fair. The fact that there's problems in the fire brigade, police brigade, a lot of London services are full of idiots that are in the service that don't deserve to be there and should be get rid of it. So yeah, very dreadful, awful situation in the London Fire Brigade as well, who reports that there needs to be complete clear out in that department as well. Same with the Metropolitan Police, which has been, run by, which is full of toshes and doshes in that system as well.
Yeah, because half of them will be sacked. So there you go.
Yeah, it's half of them are going to be sacked. Half of them are just, they shouldn't even be there. So yeah, that's the front pages for tomorrow, Charlie, as well. And there also will be the Sunday Politics show at 8:30 on Sophie Ridge, 9 o'clock as well, on BBC One. And in the new year, I believe, Charlie, Camilla Tomley starting a new show on GB News from 9:30 to 11 as well. A new Sunday Politics show for that channel as well. We're presented by the Telegraph's Camilla Tomley as well, which I believe was announced on Dan Walton Tonight a few weeks ago. But that will be starting in January when politics returns from the Christmas break. And yeah, so that is the Sunday papers for tomorrow.
Yeah, also as well, guys, I promised you would do this before we move on and do the Great British Star and Red Devils. Updates from the Parliament House of Commons schedules. Zach and myself will go through that now. Next week, Zach in the Commons looking pretty interesting.
Yes, interestingly as well. Now, one of the elements that was talked about as well was the housing bill, if I remember quite rightly, as well. That was planning to be scheduled for next week as well. Let me go through some of it as well. Let me try and find the page as well. So, let me find it. We're on Saturday. We don't want to go through the poll for parliamentary country, but the housing bill is due to be back on Monday. As well. So yeah, so on Monday, in the Commons, there will be educational questions. The finance bill legislation gets its second reading. There's a motion on the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority as well that Penny Mordaunt is going to lay ahead of the House as well. But it looks like the bill with the housing bill has been pulled is in favour of the finance bill, the second reading, which will be next year's autumn statement measures that was introduced last week, is now going to take place as legislation to be announced as well. On Tuesday, energy, business, energy, and industrial strategy, all questions. Legislation on Northern Ireland executive formation, all stages of that as well, because Northern Ireland is still out of it. Executive at the moment. It looks like that's the bill to delay the election from December to April as well. So, yep, that's on Tuesday. There will also be a motion to consider allocation of time motion as well. Wednesday, as you know, is Prime Minister's questions that day as well. Then we got the finance bill, the committee, the whole House remaining stages of that. So the finance bill will be on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's all the budget, the measures in the autumn statement as well. And then on Thursday, it's obviously business questions. And then Councillors of State Bill, Lord all stages, and there's backbench business general on World AIDS Day by Lord Russell Moyle as well. The House was not sitting. Oh no, the House is sitting on Friday, 2nd of December for private members' bills as well. So that's parliamentary business coming up this week.
Also, some Lords as well. Tuesday as well, we've got the autumn statement, Baroness Penn leading that. And also Russia's use of drone attacks on Ukraine gets a mention in the Lords Chamber as well. So you've got the Commons main chamber, the Lords main chamber, and also Commons for Westminster. There's plenty of this. If you go on the website called daywillworkforyou.com, you can actually find out some of the information and dates of when Parliament will be sitting. We'll be doing another update next week on what is happening in Parliament. I thought I'd bring you that update along because it's very, very important to understand parliamentary business for the next week as well. So just keep you interested in what you can watch on BBC Parliament as well. That channel will stream all the latest political debates from Parliament, including Wednesday's bash with Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak in PMQs. Time now for the Great British Stars and Red Devils of the week. Now, with nominations from myself and Zach, we're going to go over this. I'm going to start with my Red Devils of the week. One is Sadiq Khan for extending London's ULEZ zone. I think that is one of the worst ones. But I'm also going to give it to another person as well. Now, my second nomination is going to go to President Xi Jinping of China. Now, this week, the Chinese authorities locked people down in their homes after COVID-19 outbreaks spread across China. And all the protesters out there went out and defied their president. I mean, wow. What an astonishing spectacle.
Fair play.
That was as well. Now, I'm also going to give a Great British Star mention as well. This is a controversial nomination. It's going to go to David Williams, the former Britain's Got Talent judge. Now, I know what David Williams done raises questions, but the reason I'm going to give him a Great British Star is for his service to Britain's Got Talent over the last 10 years. As you guys know, he has unfortunately stood down after what happened. He has had a few issues behind the scenes with allegations. But whatever you look at it is, whether it's a witch hunt, whether it was done to try and get him out, I don't know. But David Williams was a judge on Britain's Got Talent. And I have to say, he done a great job on the show, I think. He brought Britain's Got Talent up from the masses. I think that the show will not be the same without him. There are rumours that Oti Mabuse could replace him. Piers Morgan's also on the list as well, potentially rumouring a return. Even though he's very busy with Talk TV doing his uncensored show, so we have to find some time off filming to fill the gaps in there. David Williams also gets a nomination for myself as well. And also another nomination as well. This nomination is going to be one that I think a lot of people will want me to announce. I'm actually going to give it to a football team who beat Argentina the other day. I think that was Saudi Arabia getting the nomination for me for beating Argentina in the World Cup. So that's my nominations there for the Great British Stars and Red Devils. Zach, what's yours this week?
Right. Okay. So I've only got one British Star, one Red Devil this week. The British Star this week is an interesting one, Charlie. I'm really going to be giving it an interesting one, actually. So I'm going to give it to a bunch of people in Sydney, Australia. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm going to give it to them this week. It's interesting. It may sound a bit weird at first and a bit silly, but they're doing this for a good cause. So thousands of people stripped off for a mass nude photo on an Australian beach to raise awareness about skin cancer. Sydney's Bondi Beach saw a sea of swimless individuals being directed via megaphone by US photographer Spencer Tunick on Saturday. Fair play. In stripping off the beach naked is not something that you probably want to do normally, but to raise awareness for cancer, fair play. That's pretty brave. Well done to all the people that did it. The New York-based artist collaborated with charity on the naked art installation is rich awareness about melanoma, Australia's fourth most common form of cancer. 17,000 of skin cases normally every year. In Australia, more than 1,200 Australians will die from the disease. So actually, stripping bare on a beach to raise awareness about this is actually a good thing. It's not like some of the beaches I go to where I've not been to beaches in much longer. The only time I went to a beach was 5 years ago, where we unfortunately discovered a nudist beach in Sussex, and it was very unfortunate to go on. But this one's for a good cause, Charlie. Stripping naked to raise awareness about skin cancer, fair play. So I'm going to give it to all the ladies who did that in Sydney. British Star of the Week for me. Fair play, well done. The Red Devil this week, Charlie, the Red Devil I'm going to give it to as well is the person that did the shooting in a nightclub in Colorado.
I heard about this. Yes,
19th of November. There was a shooting at Club Q, which is an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado. 5 were then killed, 25 of them were injured. The accused were also injured and taken to a local hospital as well. Now, interestingly, it may sound a bit weird, but the victims that have been victims will be identified by their preferred pronouns and gender. Now, I know it sounds a bit weird to you, Charlie, but I think in respect, I think it's very, very, very fair to do that on honor of those who have died and who wanted to whatever gender they gender they did want to identify as. I mean, fair enough as well. But yeah, the gunman that killed 5 people in Colorado is the Red Devil for me this week as well, because hate is unacceptable. No matter who it is, against that, hate is just totally wrong. Where it's LGBTQ people, anyone, any discriminatory behaviour, especially targeting a nightclub as well, normally aimed at gay, lesbians, bis, and all that sort of thing, LGBTQ people. It's just not on, unacceptable, homophobic, and just quite frankly discriminatory. And the gunman, quite frankly, deserves to be in jail for a long time as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
The Colorado shooter is the Red Devil this week for me.
That's Lee Aldrich, the 22-year-old, who actually was accused of mass shooting at the Q nightclub in Colorado Springs. I have to say that's going to be my red. I'm gonna add that as my Red Devil as well.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
I read this article up, I think, on Thursday. I forgot to mention it on the show tonight, but yeah, no, absolutely vile. I have to say, I mean, US gun. We had this a few months ago. I think in the same state, Colorado is a bad state for this crime. So, I think the governor of Colorado. I don't know who that is. I'm sure. I think it's a Democrat. It's a Democrat governor, by the way. It's J.R. Polis who's the governor there. Is he going to do something about tackling crime, or is he going to introduce? Is there tougher gun laws in Colorado? I'm not sure. Jack.
Will Congress do something about it as well? Because U.S. Congress has much blame on it as well as not passing gun restriction laws and all that sort of thing. I know they've got something called the Second Amendment there, but the Second Amendment doesn't give you an all right out to going around shooting people and killing people, doing mass shootings as well. It's just not on.
Yeah, definitely not something I would consider doing, I have to say. I think it's vile, and people need to understand this into consideration, what's happening in the US. Thank you for watching the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight, live on YouTube. I have to report that the last part of my show did go down very smoothly and my connection was absolutely fine.
Perfecto.
So, thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. I've, of course, had to use a slightly different setup, but I'm very happy to be bringing you all the latest news from my show tonight. And it will be on again next weekend when we're in December and run up to Christmas. Plenty of news to come on the Charlie Tolhurst show next week on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Take care and good night.